Peter, pleasure to meet you again.
Again?
Again and
Wow.
again. Unknown Pleasures, Inside Joy Division, a great read. What exactly sort of made you decide to put it out now?
Interesting that everybody asks that question. Not the most obvious one to me, but I suppose the answer has to be that when I came to do a book, and I went looking for a deal, my first idea was to do a book about the Hacienda. When I started approaching publishers, they all wanted one book about everything, about the Hacienda, Joy Division and New Order. And I'd never considered that. I just wanted to do one about the Hacienda because I thought it was such a fascinating story. What happened then was that I had the idea and did the book, enjoyed it amazingly enough, even though it was really, really hard work. So I suppose you then get the feeling that you can tell the story in print. What happened then was I read a couple of books on Joy Division, and it struck me that all the books on Joy Division were by people who weren't there. And I thought, right, I've had the success with the Hacienda book, so let's try and emulate it with the Joy Division book. It was made a little bit easier by celebrating the music as I did in 2010. I sort of immersed myself in all things Joy Division and had been talking about it quite a lot. So to do the book actually seemed quite easy.
Yeah, no, great stuff. I mean, it's very well written, and you know, you
Thank you.
convey the story.
You don't say that to all the boys, do you?
No, you convey it in a very sort of abrasive, sort of realistic way. You bring it to the modern day and sort of shine a light on it. It's more, as opposed to maybe the films that more sort of romanticize the whole sort of era, as it were. But was that your intent, to make it sort of gritty realism in a way?
Well, no, I mean, it's just the truth. The truth about Joy Division is that there was no luxury in it. You know, we hadn't had any real success. We were very much starting out, and it's very, very hard work and very uncomfortable work, actually. But to do something that you believe in and something that you think is worthwhile, that, you know, that sort of what can we say, that satisfies your soul, you'll do anything. And you know, that was how it was in those days. Joy Division only were together for 2.5 years. We were only professional for 6 months, and it's a very, very short period of time for a group, especially a group that's had the cultural and musical impact that Joy Division have had and still have today. So it really is another fascinating story. I'm very lucky in my life to have lived through some absolutely fascinating stories, and it is quite interesting because a lot of people have said to me, oh, you know, it's not your typical rock and roll book of drugs and girls and all that, and I say to them, wait for New Order.
That's true. When's that? When can we expect that then?
Probably very soon. I wasn't going to do a New Order book. I'd never considered it, even though I knew I'd probably write about Joy Division. I never thought that I would do New Order because it's so pained and there's so much, shall we say, painful stuff in it in that period that I thought it was best left alone. But I suppose in a funny way, with them reforming without me and the way they did it, which I thought was terrible, cowardly, I thought, right, fuck it, I'll tell it.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, it sort of broke it for me in a way. It broke the mystery around New Order. It always sort of occupied quite a special period in your life, New Order, to me. And them reforming and then doing it without you, I think, is the ultimate insult, really.
No, I'm sure it is.
Yes, but it broke it for me. So now it's just something else for me to do. Now I'll write a book about that, and then I'll finished.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
there was a real camaraderie in Joy Division, that, you know, in New Order.
There was a camaraderie in New Order,
In New Order,
as well,
but
believe it or not.
it seems to ebb away slightly. But why, if Joy Division, why do you think there was a camaraderie so strong at that?
No,
now
I mean,
anyway?
it was you were young. It was the first group you'd ever been in. You were all very focused on what you were doing. You were all believed in yourselves. There was a closeness to the group that you'd have to say, I suppose, in a funny way, in your musical career, I suppose you'd call it your honeymoon period, really. And, you know, it had such a tragic end. That wonderful sort of vision of hope and freedom that you wanted for your life came to a stop. And I do understand why we put Joy Division away and started again, because it wouldn't have been the same without Ian. It wasn't Joy Division, you know, and it's the same thing to my mind, in my opinion, about New Order. You know, they aren't New Order, just celebrating New Order. So yeah, I mean, it's a great tale to tell, and to have lived it. You know, it's fantastic, and to have got through it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you know, one of your big regrets is that, you know, that Ian's not been able to enjoy the fruits of his labour, you know, and the success that you've had that really set up the whole of my life.
What
I'm
is
sure
were his best qualities?
Well, no, I mean, he was a great colleague. He was a great friend. He was a really nice guy. He really was a nice bloke. He was nice to work with. I mean, without his illness, I suppose everything would have been perfect, but it's not a perfect world. And I think the thing that surprised me was how early he actually got his epilepsy became a problem, because in my mind I'd sort of imagined that it was quite at the end of Joy Division, if you like. Well, you know, his epilepsy wasn't a long way from his untimely end, but it wasn't. It was very early on, so we'd actually had to put up with it, and Ian was fighting it as well for quite a long time, you know, in our career, and that shocked me, because somehow in my brain I'd just moved it, you know, we weren't encumbered with it, shall we say. So that was a surprise. When you put the timelines in, you see that there's some quite uncomfortable. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe we did that so soon after that, you know. It was the rate we were working was very, very intense. And not only were we working in the group, we were also holding down our day jobs, as well as Ian had a new baby. He was married, he had a bloody mistress. Really, it wasn't too surprising when you look at it like that. Oh God, you know, you can sort of guess the end, if you like.
Yeah, but I mean, he was very intense on stage. Was he as intense as
No, he was
off
dead
stage?
normal.
Yeah,
No, he was
normal
really,
guy.
really nice. And I suppose in a funny way that's the kind of mythology that you wanted to correct. Is that he was a genuinely nice, thoughtful, generous guy. And the only thing that was wrong was that bloody illness that he had to suffer from, because in those days the treatment for it was much more haphazard than it is now, and the knowledge of it, you know, there was no knowledge of it. We didn't know what the hell was going on. As 22-year-old, 21-year-old kids, we didn't have a clue.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
21-year-old kids these days are much more educated, much more worldly, able to find out about things at the click of a button.
Yeah.
You know, them days it was almost like bloody witchcraft. You know, that was, it was like, oh, it felt so removed from you, like you just couldn't do anything about it. There was a terrible feeling of helplessness.
Yeah, I mean, you do. But reading the book, you know, it is a tale of Lola lads, you know, sort of making it good, and it's quite funny, realistic. You know, you're going around as a team, as a band, and but yourself and Bernard Sumner sort of almost the main sort of powerhouse behind the band. And why do you think that sort of duo and the chemistry really sort of worked from the start?
Well, we were all great musicians. I mean, Steve's drumming in particular was a very, very important part of Joy Division. Each musical member held their corner up completely. We were all very unusually, you know, in a group you'll usually have someone that takes the back role. But in Joy Division, the drums were very up front, very riffy, very almost drummerly melodic. The bass was up front, melodic. Guitar was up front, melodic. You had three fantastic instruments working together that were all individually as powerful as the others. And Ian was the icing on the cake. It's an unusual musical accompaniment, and I'm not too sure you could think of many bands that were that unique.
What's your favourite memory of Ian Curtis then?
I have a lot, actually. Yeah, I remember him as a fun guy. We had our problems, but the great thing about it was you all felt you were in it together. You all felt very equal, and you all felt that you were trying and hoping for the same dreams, which made it easy. But no, I have a lot of memories. They're all in the book. It's quite weird. Him chasing the drum down the motorway, pissing in the ashtray, trying to find the red light district in France. There's a lot. I mean, it's quite funny because it's been quite entertaining remembering the things that you didn't put in the book. Like I remembered after his pool playing style, because he used to play pool with one hand on the cue and one fag in his gun, and he'd just whack the balls on the table, leaping about like he was dancing on stage. And I'd forgotten about that. Someone reminded me about it. And he was really good. It was unbelievable to watch him play like that. You know, everyone's dead studied and dead precise and all when they're playing pool. And he was just like, whack! Just like he was dancing on stage. And he was really good. Balls were always good. Everyone used to be amazed, you know. So it's been quite fun remembering things like that.
What was your favourite period of Joy Division, personally?
Oh, God. I mean, I think we, you know, as I said, we all had to put up with looking after him. It wasn't really, we didn't feel like you had to put up with it, you just did it, you know. He needed your help, so you helped him. But no, it was great. Touring with the Buzzcocks was great. All of it felt okay. I think the fact that you were all getting on, and it was never sullied by arguments really over money between you.
Yeah.
You know, I think there was a purity and an ease to it. Plus, you never find it difficult to write music. You know, you were writing so many songs, even at the end when he died, to have written In a Lonely Place and Ceremony, 2 fantastic songs. You know, you were showing no signs of running out of inspiration. So yeah, I mean, I do remember it all. It's only his illness that.
Yeah, I mean, if it hadn't ended in that way, what would you think would have happened to Joy Division?
Would be as big as you too. What else? No, I mean, the thing is that I don't think we would have changed. I think musically we would have gone the same way. I think if anything, Ian would have been singing over music like Blue Monday, because towards the end, with Something Must Break, The Only Mistake, you were getting into a very dancey feel to some of the music, and these days, you know, you were starting to go dancey. The synths were being brought in, the syndromes, dance, you know, playing to a click track, overdubbing drum parts. You could see the way the music was going. I don't think the music would have been that different at all, really. It would have been. I would have loved to have seen it. I must say that I would have loved to have been able to say that Ian sang on Blue Monday. I really would.
But I mean, now you mentioned that, you know, New Order and that getting together. I mean, the legal wranglings have been well documented. What position? Where are we right now then?
Right in the middle of it still.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of it.
Only talking through lawyers, or?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever see? Well, what would you like to say to them if you could?
I think that if you talked it out and sat down and got over the emotional part of it, I think you'd be able to sort it out, because the thing is that we are businessmen and we are working, and what you're trying to do is find a way of working that makes everybody happy-ish. Compromise. It has to be a compromise. You know, with this, it just seems so silly, really, and stupid, but you're sort of locked in now. You know, and there's more than business at stake. I think it's become very, very personal.
And I mean, do you ever see, if you could sort things out, would you ever see, you know, full reunion?
Well, that's like saying when you're breaking up with your missus and, you know, she's there ripping your suits in half and cutting your ties and chopping the dog up and going, do you think you two have got back together again? You know, once you've got past this, shall we say, you know, I mean, it is about dialogue. You need to sit down, let a bit of blood out, and then get on with it, because none of us are going to get any younger. And I do have a nasty feeling that if we carry on like this, someone will be dancing on someone else's grave, which is a terrible thought, you know, that you're too old to go on like this, I'd say. But, you know, it's one of them things, isn't it? It's like the fight in the playground, isn't it? He who backs down gets spat on.
Yeah.
So that's where it's got to.
But you seem to be a very busy man. You've got the Hacienda releases, the Light, etc., etc. Any other projects that you'd like to tell us about?
Oh my God! I've got. It's funny, really. When we were together as New Order before we split in 2006, it was taken for granted that you didn't do much outside of New Order. So whatever New Order did was what you did, and we had a hell of a lot of time off, which I'm sort of envy now, to be honest with you. So I think once I got outside of that, and when New Order split, I've just been doing everything I possibly can, because in New Order we did very little. I mean, it's been a hell of a contrast watching them work the way they had done, because they've never worked like that for 30 years. I used to beg them to work like that, and they'd never do it. So it must have been me that was the problem. It's been odd to witness the change, you know. It's like they've been kidnapped by aliens. They've sent people back that aren't quite the same. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm enjoying myself a lot. I like to keep busy. I've enjoyed resurrecting the Hacienda and making it very exciting, and making it a worldwide brand again.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
has been fantastic. I mean, I actually started doing that in New Order. You know, when we were together, Waiting for the Siren's Call was when we started doing the Hacienda, and they didn't bother about it then. It's only when we split up that it's since become a problem. Interesting, that one. But anyway, no, I'm very busy and I'm very happy. Yeah, it's good.
Good stuff. I mean, what 3 songs would you say sum up Joy Division?
Every single song Joy Division did was fantastic. It really was. I mean, if you look at songs like Dead Souls, Atmosphere, my God, Insight, New Dawn Fades, I was listening to while I was doing the signing last night, and some wonderful, wonderful tracks. Even when you get to Still and you look at Something Must Break, Exercise 1, Sound of Music, fantastic tunes. So many, every one an absolute classic. And I must admit that even when you look at, like I've been looking at New Order's early stuff, and there's some wonderful songs there, very underplayed. You know, I mean, if you think about it, me playing the New Order albums in full sort of lets them off the hook, because they can go and play all the poppy hit ones, and you've got best of both worlds. Really, we should be thanking each other, you know, for sorting it out.
True.
Yeah, it's really is a weird situation to be in. Maybe, you know, I know we could do a co-headlining tour one day. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, strange things have happened. But yeah, so it's a great book anyway. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Why would you say that people should buy the book then?
Why should you buy the book? That's an interesting one. Well, it took me 2 years to write. It was very hard work. Very satisfying when I finished it, actually, I must admit. And I learnt a lot about myself in it when I was doing it, which was the interesting thing. I mean, I talk over the Joy Division bit over and over again. I'm always doing interviews about Joy Division. But to go back and research my life with my, you know, not my parents, because they're both dead, but with relatives, was really interesting. So if you want to learn a lot about me, buy the book. And if you don't. It's as easy as that. It's like that bit on I'm a Celebrity. Why should people vote for you? Don't fucking vote for me. Do whatever you want. I don't care. But no, I mean, you know, with anything like that, the big thing is finishing it and getting it out. And, you know, one thing that I learned with Joy Division and Factory Records was that everybody doesn't agree with you all the time, but maybe over a long period of time they'll come around to your way of thinking. And that's why we stuck to our guns. And I think the book, and some guy summed it up very well actually. He said to me the other day, he said, it's not a normal rock and roll band story, this one. He said, and that's what makes it quite interesting. And I said, well, you'll have to wait for the New Order one, mate.
Yeah. Well, Peter, it's a pleasure meeting you.
And you, mate.
Again. And anything else you'd like to say to Music News watchers?
Get on down.
Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.
You put me on the spot there, haven't you?